Good evening, Sir OJ and classmates! Welcome to If You Wanna Be My RHETOR, where we discuss the hottest, spiciest topics of our generation.
Hey everyone, I'm Lorraine Asposh Spice, ang stylish critic ng Antipolo City.
I'm Alexa Thea Garcia, your ginger spice, ang cutie ng Katipunan.
Joseph Tosok here as Sporty Spice, naghihingalong isko ng Naga.
I'm Irina Olegario as your mommy spice, ang judgmental fur mama ng Quezon City.
And of course, as baby spice, me! I'm Alexandra Nadine Abad, ang resident pushover baby girl ng Parañaque City!
Yay!
Yay!
Grabe, mga Spice Girls. Grabe, this month, ang daming nangyari. Tapos sobrang mainit pa yung mga nangyari this month. Ano kaya yung tinutukoy ko? May guesses ba kayo?
It's summer.
Ano kaya yung mainit?
Mainit?
Summer, pwede. Mainit. Kasi mainit.
Moira and Jason breakup, mainit yan.
Ay, nako, mainit yan. Pero no, that's not the correct answer. The answer is actually election.
Tama.
Election.
Akala ko yung ulo ni Ina. Anyway,
Alam naman nating lahat kung sino yung malapit ng umupo as president. Pero alam ba natin kung bakit siya uupo doon? Meron tayong mapapanood na video of people explaining why they voted someone and not the other one. Pa-share screen naman dyan.
Kanya-kanya tayong Kanya-kanya daw kaming mga hihadkain daw na kung sino gusto namin. Sabi ko, sige. Sabi ko, basta ako na, Marcos ako. Ako Lenny ako ma. Sige. Wala naman yata nagawa sa PBF.
Wala po kayo nababalitaan mga ginawa niya. Kahit yung mga libreng pabahay, yung mga tulong sa...
Marcos talaga, maraming natulungan.
Ano po yung natulungan ni Mark?
Mga squatter din sa may nagawa niya ng bahay. Yan, list niya yan. Sa dating kay Marcos daw yan.
Bongbong po?
Yung nanay niya pa.
Anong panahon pa ng Imelda at saka ni Ferdinand Marcos? Si Bongbong po mismo, ano po yung mga naitulong?
Hindi ko po balita ang katulong siya sa amin.
Nagkaroon ng bagyong Yolanda, ang daming buhos na tulong ng bawat bansa. Tapos yun ang makikita mo.
Ano yung nakita mo?
Yung pangit na pagpapagawa ng bahay.
Saan mo nakita?
Yung tulay na yung may bahay sa may ng ilog ho yata na may tulay na may sumuri at nahulog sila. Pati yung mayor doon. Ito ho ba yung pinagmamalaki ni Noynoy na pinatayo niya?
Anong kinalaman ni Lenny doon?
Wala.
Okay. Basta tanong ko, bakit hindi sila yung iboboto mo?
Wala naman ding na rin kung babae din ang uupo din.
Ayaw mo ng babae?
Ayaw ko babae.
Bakit? Ano problema sa babae?
Kasi iba ang babae na mamanduhan pa ng Hindi katulad ng lalaki, di mo kailangan manduhan siya.
Ikaw ba namamanduhan ka?
Hindi. Pareho lang kami ng asawa ko, nagkakaintindihan kami.
Babae ka sabi mo namamanduhan.
Namamanduhan ka pero ibig sabihin, match kayo ng nagkakaintindihan. Hindi katulad ng babaeng uupo ng presidente, katulad ng ang babae talaga pang na lang talaga sa atin yung bahay.
Bahay. So ikaw pang bahay ka na lang, gano'n?
Oo. Alagaan na lang yung mga anak.
Ayaw mo ng babaeng na tumatakbo sa politika, gano'n?
Oo, ayoko na.
Pero mayor?
Ang mayor naman dito, subok na namin sila. Since pa yung
Pero babae yung mayor.
Okay naman sila eh.
So si Amy Marcos pag tumakbo presidente, boboto mo?
Depende. Sa mga uupong...
Akala ko ba ayaw mo ng babaeng presidente?
Naman eh. Basta kahit sa sinong mga presidenteng babaeng tatakbo, ayoko. Gusto ko lalaki.
So pag tumakbo si Amy, hindi mo
Hindi
iboboto?
siguro. Hindi ko siya tuboto.
So problema talaga.
Ayokong babae ang umupong presidente. Pinakamaganda talaga lalaki ang umupo.
Okay, maraming salamat for that video. And meron tayong question of the day.
Did the rhetor use the available means of persuasion to evoke the intended response from the audience?
Ano kayang lens pwede nating gamitin para i-answer yung question na to?
one can consider it parang yung template na talaga para sa one specific lens or school of criticism na pwedeng gamitin dito in terms of rhetoric, which is none other than Neo-Aristotelian criticism. Ayan. It's also known as traditional criticism, something mga alam nyo na, mga subok na rhetorical critics. Basically, Neo-Aristotelian criticism considers rhetoric in its traditional form. Yung kumbaga classical way of considering rhetoric, which is something that is created in order to persuade someone else. So, yun yung reason kung bakit ganun yung tanong. Ginagauge niya kung nagamit ba talaga ng rhetor yung mga available devices, available techniques para makuha niya yung gusto niya from the audience. Pero, yun na nga, although Neo-Aristotelian criticism has possession of our main research question of the day, I personally can't help but notice na parang may isa pang room for another lens or sort of criticism.
Yes, sa tingin ko, may sisingit natin dito ang feminist criticism. Sabi ni Joseph kanina, mayroon ngang units of analysis na predetermined sa Neo-Aristotelian criticism. Pero, feminist criticism, there are no set units of analysis. We will be using strategies of hegemonic perspectives to debunk and deconstruct what feminist criticism aims to. So, yung criticism na ito, we tackle the tension between male and female, focusing of course on the male domination and the female oppression, especially with the heavily patriarchal system that's present in our society now. I would like to quote Sonia Foss and how she told us that we could study artifacts that come from the oppressed in this feminist criticism point of view. And these should be analyzed on how these artifacts put forward the systems of oppression. This could range from a variety of artifacts, like how we just watched a video earlier. We can study speeches of the silenced women, ads, literary texts, as long as nakita natin yung conditions ng domination, oppression, and how rhetoric constructs these. With that, we go on to our main discussion. So let's discuss the Neo-Aristotelian part of this video.
While the ultimate goal or the ultimate focus of Neo-Aristotelian criticism is to measure the success of the rhetor in terms of kung nakuha niya ba talaga yung intended response niya from the audience. Meron rin naman siyang ibang mga bagay na kinoconsider. For example, ang units of analysis niya, kung feminist criticism has rather abstract units of analysis, ang units of analysis niya are the canons of rhetoric, the 5 canons. Pinag-uusapan rin dyan yung speaker, yung message, yung audience, and yung context. And dyan sa huling, or rather dyan sa ika-4 na element na pinag-aaralan ng Neo-Aristotelian criticism, dyan tayo muna papasok. Kasi generally, when someone tries to do a Neo-Aristotelian or a traditional criticism, because Neo-Aristotelian is quite a mouthful na, we start with a context. We start by recreating the context. What does that mean? It's also called the explication of the interaction, the rhetorical interaction that occurred between the rhetor and the audience. So when you recreate the context, you want to discuss what were the socio-political factors that went into the creation of the rhetorical artifact. What were the physical considerations, for example? And actually, most noticeably, kumbaga, there aren't really any physical considerations to speak of when it comes to the rhetorical artifact, siguro except sa pandemya. No? It occurred during the pandemic. That's one thing. Pero the more significant thing to note is, in terms of its physical context, hindi siya ginawa in public and live. Kumbaga, it was posted on the digital platform TikTok. So that's one answer to what the physical context, or rather the digital context of the artifact is. Pero sa pagdako natin sa socio-political context ng artifact mismo, it's clear na it was made with the elections and the electoral campaign in mind. Makikita mo dun sa context, sa recreation of the context, what you can infer to be the rhetor's projected and intended response. So now that we have that much insight, sa context pa lang yan, we have to start considering din some of the more traditional Aristotelian concepts rin that factor into the speaker's techniques, the speaker's devices.
Okay, so for this next question, I'd like to focus on the 3 artistic proofs. So that's ethos, pathos, and logos. So let's first talk about the speaker's ethos. So, when Aristotle discussed the artistic proof in his book Rhetoric, I don't know if you know this, but he mentioned that to be able to use persuasion by character, you must have the 3 qualities para masabi ng tao na credible ka and trustworthy. So that's good sense, good moral character, and good will. So for the lola, yung unang lola na pinakita kanina, I think personally she lacked good sense and rationality since her reason for voting for BBM was because of his father's achievements, and siya mismo hindi niya nga alam yung mga nagawa ni BBM, diba? And actually ganun din yung kay kuya after ni lola, kasi he was asked then why he didn't want to vote for Lenny, and then he answered that it was because of sa kapalpakan nung bridge na ginawa nung administration ni Ninoy. So parang make it make sense, di ba? Oo, di ba? So, for ate naman na naka-ABB na shirt, hindi ko talaga nakitaan ng good sense, lalo na she talked so low of women despite her belonging to that minority group. And I don't think it's rational for people to say that they don't want women to rule the country yet is gonna vote for a local politician that's a woman, di ba? So, parang, but nevertheless, I think naman all of them possess goodwill in a sense na they're thinking of what's best for Filipinos. It's just a matter of being educated enough to know facts, which is not their fault in the first place, because na-mention na rin ni Joseph kanina na yung influence ng socio-economic factors rin nakaka-affect siya where the artifact is contextualized. So, with regard naman to the pathos, lipat tayo, I think all of their answers were able to arouse the similar emotion from us, which is, ako, I don't want to speak for all of you, but like, ako, halo ng, medyo, anger is such a big word, but medyo toned down na anger and pity. So, although feeling ko naman it wasn't their intention to do so, it was still the way that they gained our interest and sympathy. On one hand, medyo nakaka-provoke naman talaga yung sinasabi nila, lalo na si ate naka-ABB na shirt. And this can evoke a conversation between them and their audience, kahit comment section lang ganon, 'di ba? Tayo nga ngayon pinag-uusapan natin yung video na 'yon. Exactly, 'di ba?
Yeah.
So even if the audience was not necessarily swayed by their answers, they were still able to elicit a response from us, 'di ba? And this actually leads me also to yung pag-evoke ng feelings of pity. Kasi syempre, when I listen to them, I kind of know that they're also victims of this system. So it makes me want to engage with them as well as to hopefully shed some light on certain things. And yung last is yung logos. I think talagang sobrang deficient nila in this area sa logos, most especially since they didn't even answer the question with the logical and reasonable arguments. They were either praising another man's success, mentioning another person's failures, or perpetuating backward opinions on women. How about you guys? What do you think?
Ako, I totally agree with you, Alex. And in addition to that, para mas maintindihan din natin yung video, I think we can also make use of the 5 canons of rhetoric, as mentioned na rin kanina ni Joseph, in examining the answers of the interviewees. So meron tong 5 parts, and allow me to mention or like discuss each part kung paano siya nag-manifest dun sa video. So, under the invention part, we can tell that the creation of ideas for the interview was mainly made to find out random people's reasons as to why would they not go for Lenny as their president. So, deliberately naman siyang minention and nandun naman siya sa parang text card ng TikTok video. So, this also includes the things that Alex mentioned, which are the logos, ethos, and pathos. And the questions given were obviously leading them to question their preference. Somehow lang naman, for me, my vibe na parang they're aiming for them to switch sides. So, in addition to that, we also have the arrangement part, rather. And this example, I don't think it's heavily scripted at all. Kasi when it comes to arrangement, we're talking about kung paano nabuo yung mismong discussion or like yung rhetoric. I think the interviewer or this episode of Bakit Bet Mo has an outline already before they even began to shoot the interviews. But as we can see, it still has spontaneity. The host asks follow-up questions based sa kung ano yung sagot nung in-interview niya. Again, aiming to question their stance, which is the main point of the whole thing. So when it comes to style naman, on the other hand, I think the informal way of interviewing them, almost like just chatting with them, help the people to be more comfortable in expressing their thoughts and answers to each question, which, by the way, is very smart of them to do so, because, people sometimes get conscious, especially in front of the camera, and if they know that they are being filmed. So making it light and choosing words, especially Tagalog, to converse with them really helps a lot in bringing out their desired response from those people in the video. And since this type of TikTok or videos in general are deliberately made to be on the spot, candid, and whatnot, memorization, which is also a part of the canons of the rhetoric, does not come to play, especially with the interviewee's answers. That's really obvious. It doesn't seem like they knew the questions beforehand and have prepared answers to them already prior to the interview. Kasi nakikita natin na nag-iisip sila on the spot, like nagsustutter, nagugulat sa mga follow-up questions ni Kuya. And if we pay attention to the way they speak, ayun nga, medyo alangan sila sa iba nilang sinasabi. Especially the lady at the end seems so confused about what to say, which is totally fine. It's just proof that the video was natural and unscripted. And lastly, for the delivery part, delivery is also very, very significant because we can see the level of their conviction and certainty with their answers by the way they deliver them. We can tell that most of them are not so sure about the facts that they are sharing. Most especially, again, Ate in the end, who said really contradicting things about, yun nga, kung ayaw niya magboto ng babaeng president pero okay lang kung mayor na president, na kung okay lang na mayor na babae. So, and given na parang sinasabi pa niya na ang babae daw dapat confined lang sa tahanan, mag-alaga ng anak, stuff like that. So that affects how we take their answers seriously.
I found it interesting lang coming from Alex and coming from Lorraine next, how there was a shift in viewing who the speaker is in the context of the artifact. We came from Alex's discussions on ethos, pathos, logos, which primarily focused on those three, pero in the context of the participants, of the interviewees. I was interested kasi Lorraine pointed out na parang halos interchangeable yung discussion ni Lorraine across the 5 canons of rhetoric. Kung sino yung speaker na nire-refer. Sometimes it was the delivery or sometimes it pertained to the arrangement of the video by yung page, yung account, which is Bakit Bet Mo. And sometimes it pertained to yung spontaneity, yung pagkabigla ng mga interviews. It really does contextualize the research question much deeper na kung successful ba yung intended response ng each of these speakers. Siguro when it comes to the account or the interviewers, Bakit Bet Mo as the speaker, actually in the first place, ano ba talaga yung intended response ng account na yun?
Joseph, I think the person or the organization, I don't know if tao lang ba siya, if mag-isa lang ba siya, that put out the video, I think they wanted people to witness how diverse people's opinions can be, no matter how mainstream we think Lenny Robredo is. It's very noticeable kasi din, I don't know if na-notice niyo rin, how leaning to Lenny si Kuya na nagtatanong. Like, yung mga questions niya, you can see yung follow-up questions niya na anong kinalaman ni Lenny doon, or nung sinabihan niya si ate na sa dulo na babae rin naman si Abby Binay. So even though parang walang pina-persuade yung nag-upload ng video sa questions niya na dapat iboto mo to, dapat si ganito, I think it's still rhetorical in a sense na it was able to persuade us to think that there really are people who think like that, and that we should do something about it to help them gain a new perspective, and na hindi puro daw or sabi niya ganyan. So I think yun yung gusto niyang intended response, not necessarily to parang, for me kasi it's very hard to say na nilagay itong video na to para magalit tayo sa mga taong yun, or para parang ganon. So I think it's more than that, na parang to put out a whole series for that, entirely for hate. So I think it's more of educational purposes.
I really like how you said na in the point of view of the person who uploaded, which is yung TikTok account. Kasi stinok ko sila kanina, tapos chinek yung ibang videos, chinek yung comments ng video, yung ng artifact natin. And it turns out, ang daming kakamping sa comment section. Tapos parang they're making fun of the participants of the interview. Pero meron akong isang nakitang comment from a supporter, a non-Lenny supporter. Tapos ang sabi niya, bakit tinatanong niyo yung mga matatanda? Takot ba kayo sa amin mga bata? Because daw, hindi fair yung interviewer dahil yung siguro yung pinili niyang answers ay leading na towards ano ba yan? Bakit ganyan yung mga voters ni 88 million? Yung ganon. So, parang sobrang interesting lang na they were able to persuade even the voters okay, let's just say it, the voters of BBM, but in a way na they knew na they were being persuaded and they didn't like it. That which is why they said, dapat tinanong nyo yung mga mas bata or yung mga mas may context about what's happening.
Tama si Thea in saying that the rhetoric of whoever is behind TikTok account, bakit bet mo, into letting the people know that, hey, these are the people who want to vote for BBM. Although there's this one BBM supporter in saying na and contradicting sa video mismo ng kapwa niyang supporters na BBM na no, hindi lang yan yung maisasagot dapat ng mga supporters into voting or persuading other people to vote for BBM. It's a various range nga of knowledge of who they want to vote. May mga sigurong mas makakasagot pa ng better kaysa dun sa mga piniling interviewin ni Bakit Bet Mo.
Parang depende na siguro kung paano mo siya i-take, katulad ng mga nasa comment section. But based on the interviewers' questions, they're all leading to the background of Lenny. So, talagang nakalagay doon na ano masasabi mo kay VP Lenny, bakit hindi si Lenny ang iboboto mo, also about having a female president, what she has done so far, etc. Like, I remember the host mentioning her housing projects pa, ganyan. So, kaya, medyo magigets ko rin yung mga tao sa comment section na bakit magsasabi na who are saying na ginawa yung video para mang-akit, na para i-switch sila like from BBM to Lenny. So I would get that, but then again, I think Bakit Bet Mo was successful naman in achieving the response they want, which are again the reasons. Yun lang, mainly the reasons why they won't vote for Lenny.
So like, di ba na-mention niyo na yung may mga comment na bakit hindi niyo i-interview yung mga mabata. Sino talaga yung audience nitong video na to? Is it for Lenny Robredo supporters or BBM supporters talaga?
Lenny. Feel ko Lenny.
That's a good question.
It is. I am very tempted to just sort of take the soft stance and say na it's for neither, considering the platform, siguro instead of thinking about it as whose supporters it's for, who is it going to reach? Yeah. Pero I think that's a bit of a soft stance, especially in the face of such a question. I think it's one valid answer, pero there are arguments for either side. No?
Ako, I feel like Lenny. Kasi, inisip ko yung point of view ng director, nung person behind the account. Tapos parang sabi ko, wow, parang ang witty ng pagkahabi nila ng persuasion. Kasi hindi nila ini-endorse si Lenny. Hindi nila sinasabi na, pero dapat si Lenny yung iboto mo. Hindi sila ganon. Like, very subtle actually yung questions nila, hindi siya subjective questions Objective questions siya. So, hindi mo siya manilingan ng bias from the question mismo. Pero you're gonna find out when you start having the conversation as a whole na, tapos marinig mo na yung buong transcript, parang doon mo malalaman na, parang medyo leaning towards Lenny yung interviewer. Which is why most of the comments then ay pro Lenny.
Okay, sige. I just stalked them again and nakita ko na yung mga ini-interview nila is not of our generation nga, it's more of also the working class, yung masa, the people. So, ang nakita kong sigurong intent ng bakit bet mo is knowing the side of the majority of the Philippines and also kung sino yung pinakamalaking population na makakatulong in winning these elections. So nakita ko dito, yun, isang malaking impact ang pag-interview ng account na ito sa mga taong nagtatrabaho, sa mga manggagawa, sa mga tricycle driver, sa mga tindera, tindero. Medyo leaning towards ako sa pangkalahatan. It's for everyone to see kung sino yung bet ng masa. Kaya siguro bakit bet mo? Kasi ito yung bet ng common people which is present sa country natin.
So, it's very important to parang mag-zoom in talaga dun sa sa sector na yon to see talaga yung point of view ng masa.
I think nagmamatter din yung pinili na population ng sasagot ng interview.
Diba in like videoing and preparing TikToks, of course, they're going to review yung content nila. They're going to double check and think of stuff na, are we going to post this? Will this become a hit and everything? Will this like get a lot of engagements and stuff? Malaking factor nga ang pag-decide at pag-screen kung ano ang ipopost ng isang content creator. So yes.
This video was really funny. Like, that's the first reaction that I had. It was really funny. And I feel like the purpose of the video was to make patawa. The way na inedit yung video is really to like have a sequence of funny clips na political, na may political undertone na something's wrong, like something's going on and this is wrong. But it's overall, the top note is that it's funny. So I feel like that's also an important factor.
Okay, so there, we were able to focus on the RHETOR itself, the 5 canons, artistic proofs, and mainly the Aristotelian criticism. Now, I would like to transition into somewhat the star or the main character in this TikTok video in the sense na ang dami niyang screen time at exposure and took part the latter of the video. So, focus natin si ate girl na naka-binay shirt at nagsabi na ayaw niyang iboto ang babaeng presidente kahit iboboto niya daw ang sure ng at trusted ng mayor Abibinay niya. So I would like to pose the question, in what ways does this artifact suggest that women and men should look, think, feel, and behave? O sige, let's start first with the lola and the guy. So going back, they mentioned talaga na walang ginawa si Lenny. So walang ginawa yung babae. So there was already a downside on explaining that that certain woman hasn't done anything and proceeded to highlight the achievements of the man, which is BBM. However, it was also interesting to me that they highlighted the man's achievements kahit hindi naman talaga sa kanya, kahit sa pamilya niya. And then upon mentioning na, hindi, kay Imelda, sa nanay niya at sa tatay niya. So it's interesting to me, she downplayed and disregarded and didn't want to see the achievements of Leni Robredo, but saw the achievements of Imelda Marcos, which is women empowerment on her part, but not on Leni Robredo. Tapos, nung kay Kuya naman, regarding the bridge ba yun, it went back again to a man, to Noy Noy. So, kahit may achievement si Noy Noy, inamin niya din naman na pangit yung pagkabahay. Anong connection ng babae doon na si Leni? Wala. Pero naisip niya pa rin. So, it's just weird on how the topic is woman, but it keeps digressing to a man and his achievements. Okay, so let's talk about the star of the show. So she mentioned na ayaw niya daw talaga ng babae na uupo bilang presidente. So I would like to discuss first the equality of being able of any candidate of any gender of some sort to run as president. However, sinabi na agad ni ate na ayaw niya talaga ng babae. Gusto niya daw lalaki yung upo. And then she started saying on how mas mamamanduhan kasi kapag babae, easily manipulated. So, sino kaya yung mag-uutos sa tingin ni ate sa babaeng presidente? So, it somehow shows that she sort of has a self-determined view on this woman, or women rather, na mas madaling manipulate kaysa sa lalaki. Pero, kinontest na naman kasi tinanong ng interviewer na, ikaw, babae, so mabilis ka bang mamanduhan? Sabi niya hindi, kasi siya daw kaya niyang makipag-usap sa asawa niya in sort of a way na hindi siya mamamanduhan. So she again broke her idea on how Madam Leni is self-determined in a way na mamamanduhan siya. In her personal experience na siya kasi hindi mamamanduhan. She herself as a woman breaks a big part of female empowerment with her co-woman. So there's this structure of domination talaga and looking up to the male person into the stronger man versus the weaker woman when it comes to seats of power. So there's an intersectionalism at this point. It's again contradicting nung sinabi niya na ito, I will determine how Leni is, but then ako, hindi ganon. So, nag-intersect siya kasi sinabi niya rin na there's no universal form of a woman even if she determined Leni as this kind of woman. Ayun, mas dumagdag pa yon nung sinabi niya na, sa bahay na lang ako. Sa bahay na lang ako, mas mabuting sa bahay na lang babae, which goes back to determining what works for the female and how females should be. And I think that's a very heavy part of this video kasi it just shows na kahit babae ka, you can't you may be non-feminist as well, and it's very interesting to look at.
So parang ang confusing talaga, ang contradicting. Umikot yung ulo ko doon. Di niyo ba nakita? Gumanon yung ulo ko. Doon talaga.
Baka it's not ayaw niya sa babae. Baka ayaw lang niya kay Leni. Kasi she did not express the same hatred towards Amy Marcos or towards yung t-shirt nga, sino yun? Si Abby Binay ba yun? Or yung mayor.
Yeah, si
so
Abby
parang
Binay.
may theory ako na baka ayaw lang niya kay Leni and not ayaw niya sa babae. Parang feel ko, medyo scapegoat lang yung ayaw niya sa babae when it comes to Leni.
Kitang-kita yung role ng women as parang appendage lang to men na, maiisip ko lang yung babae kapag na-bring up na yung pag maiisip ko lang ito kapag na-bring up na yung lalaki, gano'n.
So this brings us to the next question. How might this message challenge the mystiques of femininity and masculinity? So I actually had to research the word mystique kasi ang alam ko lang na mystique is yung from X-Men. So Ang mystique daw ay abstractions or things that make you say, basta, yan lang yung alam ko. So, ang mystique for me, in my opinion, a mystique is like yung factor na hindi mo alam kung ano yon, but it makes you feel a certain way, or it makes you believe a certain thing. It's like a je ne sais quoi in a way. So, mystiques preserve a certain status quo, but they fail to recognize that these standards, conceptions, and stereotypes are not inherent to a society and rhetorically constructed. These are from the wise words of Sir OJ. Sabi niya, by saying, ganyan na sila, we fail to demystify these abstractions. Yung message ni ate girl na naka-binay shirt, hindi niya nare-reinforce yung idea ng femininity. Kasi meron siyang gustong ipahatid na women are supposed to be confined to their homes. Women are domestic, women are familial. But si ate girl mismo, parang hindi niya nako-convey yung idea na yon when she answers about, example, Amy Marcos. Parang nagdalawang isip pa siya. Sabi niya, depende if when they ask her if they're gonna vote, if she's gonna vote for Amy Marcos. Depende, ganun siya. She doesn't fully believe in what she's saying.
In cross-examining this with neo-Aristotelian concepts, siguro she chose to preserve her ethos rather than her logos. Kasi if she was going to say, yes, to namamanduhan ako ng asawa ko, she will have lost credibility. Ibig sabihin, her authority as a speaker or as someone who was to answer that question was going to diminish. Diba? And she realized that in a split second. Pero at the cost of the logos, which I think she was also, she also observed na, this doesn't make sense. Pero, I'm gonna keep going because my own image, not only to my, to the person I'm speaking to, but of myself, is in danger. The mystique of my own femininity is in danger. No, hindi ko pwedeng sabihin na namamanduhan ako ng asawa ko kasi that's how I chose to live my life. Mystiques aren't only things that we take for granted, no, but they're also things now once we become fully aware of them, we suddenly have the instinct to preserve them. That's certainly how si ate girl acted.
So I have another question. In what ways are women and men advantaged or disadvantaged by such portrayals? Grabe naman yung trato niya sa babae. Parang sobrang baba naman ang tingin niya sa kababaihan. Obviously, the women are disadvantaged, but I also feel like men are disadvantaged by the notion of women should be domesticated and men should go to work, men should be stronger. I feel like men are also disadvantaged by that narrative kasi what if lalaki ako, tapos gusto ko magluto, gusto ko mag-take care ng kids ko, gusto ko maging stay-at-home dad. Hindi ko magagawa yon. Like, kahit na passionate ako about domesticity as a man, hindi ko magagawa yon because society pressures me into providing for my family and working when I don't want to do it. Sige, all parties are disadvantaged by the patriarchy in a sense na we're all forced to comply with a certain standard set for our binary gender. Si ate girl, I have a feeling na for herself, for her own life, she's a feminist. For herself. Kasi siya yung nagsabi na hindi siya namamandohan ng asawa niya. Hindi siya, parang sabi niya pa, ano yun? Match. Yung word na yun, sabi niya, nagmamatch kami, nagkakaintindihan kami. So she's what? She's feminist. She's feminist for herself, but she's not feminist for other people.
Selective feminist.
Yes, selective feminism. Na-remind lang ako dito sa types of feminism nung diniscuss natin sa class. There was this one type, it's called cupcake feminism. And then, cupcake feminism, this is the type of feminism na women who like the traditional roles of women, which is to be domesticated, women like to cook, women like to stay at home. I want to know your opinions. Ano yung opinion niyo sa like cupcake feminism and yung hindi ganon ka-traditional na feminism? Ano yung opinion niya doon?
I think the lipstick or the cupcake feminism gives way also to how we should be careful in putting ourselves in the toxic femininity girl boss perspective, wherein women are expected also to self-determine, you have to be this workaholic, this type A personality na laging career and who doesn't rest for their family. It just points out na there are women who can combat structures of oppression while enjoying being a mother, being a cook, being a homemaker. But there are also women who like it and show their side of feminist by achieving and proving to themselves na I can do the same thing as men. So yun lang, I guess merong cautions na we shouldn't instill women or men under these standards just because society told us so.
Maganda yan na nasama natin yung feminist criticism kasi I really feel like kailangan talaga natin ng Marxist perspective to fill in the gaps nga dito. It's very important to foster talaga genuine social development. So, unang-una na doon, kailangan natin i-recognize yung participation ng women beyond sa domestic domain, which is yun yung na-foster ng cupcake feminism. Yung participation ng mga babae sa domestic domain, and I think we should go beyond that. And so kasama dito yung yung pagdidismantle ng hegemonic masculinity, yung attending to yung mga economic facets of peace building, na kailangan din ng role ng women na mag-participate sa mga economic negotiations, and lalo na sa political sphere.
This is also a factor of othering. Kung naalala niyo, yung othering is yung when women are removed from who they really are and they are evaluated based on the experiences of men, which is also why I think na sobrang baba ng tingin ng mga tao for women who choose to be domesticated. This is for for some feminists. They don't like it when women choose to take care of their children at home, when they choose to cook instead of to work. And I feel like it's a very masculinist way of seeing the world. To close the discussion of feminism, let us address the oppression in the video. So, si ate girl, na-notice natin na yung experience niya as a woman speaks for a certain group of people, pero they are hers essentially. Like, sa kanya lang yung experience na yun, and we don't have the same experiences as women or as men. And her narrative, her experience has a very masculinist view on the world, and it contributes actually to the oppression of women. The woman in the video is an oppressor as much as she is oppressed. She is a victim of phallocentrism too, and she has been so naturalized to it that she succumbs, accepts, and further propagates the power imbalance of the patriarchy despite being victimized by it.
I remember Erina mentioned earlier na nasabi ni ate na regarding sina Abi Binay, na sila, subok na sila. Diba? That was the term. And I think not only is the irony clear in the situation regarding her reaction to Leni Robredo and her portrayal of herself, and then her portrayal of Abi Binay, pero in response to the question of how certain portrayals benefit men and women, I love how the implication na subok na sila didn't necessarily come from the merits of Abi Binay herself. No, if we are to remember, before Abi Binay ran and became the mayor of Makati back in 2016 pa ata nag-start, yung ama niya yung pinupertain ng statement na subok na sila. No, so even in that statement, even in such a simple throwaway statement, there is still reference and reverence to the patriarchy. No, hindi na lang siya tungkol kay Abi Binay, kay Ate Girl, and kay Leni Robredo. Somehow in that something that she didn't even think about, no? Na parang it wasn't even part of the equation. Nabigyan pang plus points yung patriarchy. Somehow Jejomar Binay's image still is in the shadow, kahit shadow na siya mismo. Which I probably shouldn't have said. Cut.
Joseph, I really like how you
A few moments later.
You really reminded us that the patriarchy is not just men. Like, the patriarchy is all of us. Actually, I'm part of the patriarchy.
Exactly.
You are. The girl in the video is part. It's not just men. It's a whole structure of society that is super duper hard to topple over because we're part of it. So, how do we step out of the patriarchy if we are also one of them? Okay, having said that, let's close by hearing from our main takeaways.
My main takeaways in this discussion is that how discourse from different experiences, different backgrounds is really important in a wider knowledge on understanding people, understanding those you couldn't really reach out to, especially if there are platforms that can be used to further this knowledge and understanding of citizens and the country.
It's important for us not to take things at face value and to always dissect it, always analyze it in a way that we see the main intention of the rhetor or the thing the person that is trying to persuade you.
It's really so sad to see this reality na kahit gaano natin inaakala na malaki na pala yung sakop ni Lenny, hindi pa rin pala talaga siya ganun kapatok sa masa since may mga ganito tayo nakikita na video, which is why as audiences, we need to show radikal na pagmamahal to try and lessen the damage that this system has already brought upon our country. Also, kitang-kita pa rin talaga ang mis and disinformation and the continuous perpetuation of dangerous and oppressive notions about women. So, ayun. And it's really interesting to see how both neo-Aristotelian and feminist criticisms can go hand in hand to make us see this reality.
These forms of criticisms were, invented millennia, centuries ago. No? It's just fascinating to see how challenging, but also how instinctive it is for rhetoric students like us to adapt these forms of criticism sa mga nangyayari ngayon. With this artifact that we selected, we don't even know who Bakit Bet Mo is or who is behind them. And B, yung mga in-interview niya were just regular people on the street. So we had to adapt in this discussion. We had to adapt neo-Aristotelian elements to fit that context. And then I believe we somehow managed to do that while unearthing na neo-Aristotelian criticism can be used on contemporary rhetoric. No? And it unearths the multiplicity of speakers and thus deepens yung research question na did the speaker make use of the available means of persuasion.
I guess from there we can wrap things up. I hope our viewers learned a thing or two, and we helped you guys understand a bit more the video that we presented. Again, this is
If you wanna be a RHETOR.
This is Posh Spice,
Ginger Spice,
40 Spice,
Mommy Spice,
And Baby Spice!
see you guys next time.
Bye!
Bye, thank you.